Hey guys, it's your Peacekeeper coming at you with the next video in our How to Play series on the Japanese destroyer line. This is the Tier 5 Minekaze class destroyer. The Minekaze class consisted of 15 destroyers built starting in 1919. The Minekaze class was the first class of Japanese destroyers to break entirely from the Japanese design philosophy of following British methods. The class featured a unique hull design that better protected the front torpedo tubes, at the cost of that mount being extremely wet and rough seas. The Minekaze class also employed 4 Kampon boilers with a rated speed of 39 knots. They were much like their preceding designs in the fact that their fuel consumption rate, however, was really high, and as a result it taxed the supplies which were already limited by the Japanese. The Minekaze name means summit wind. In terms of service history, basically all of the Minekaze class destroyers were used as coastal escorts based out of the Japanese mainland and bases in Singapore. Of special note, Kamikaze, not to be confused with the Tier 10 Kamikaze, was able to achieve a blistering fast speed of 40.65 knots on her speed trial runs, a feat which would only be bested by the newer Kamikaze. Sawakaze was used to train crews for anti-submarine duties based out of Yokosuka, and she would later be used as a target vessel for the first Toko Air Corps Kamikaze flights. Akikaze was the scene of a horrific war crime involving the murder of nearly 60 missionaries and children. However, Akikaze would later go on to escort the light carrier Junyo, where she intercepted torpedoes from the USS Pintato intended for Junyo in order to save the carrier, so she sacrificed herself to save the carrier. I'm not sure that makes up for the, murdering of 60 missionaries and children, but interesting to note. Yukaze participated in the Battle of Midway while escorting the light carrier Hosho. Nokaze and Namikaze, during the Battle of Midway, were assigned to the reserve fleet for the Aleutian Islands operation, but never left port. Namikaze would be heavily damaged by the USS Seal while on a convoy mission, but she would be rebuilt to carry the Kaiten Man suicide torpedoes. Thankfully, there are no records of her actually using them. In terms of her in-game gameplay style, the Minekaze has been the recipient of multiple nerfs over the years, and that's because she's been an extremely strong destroyer, and she still is in a lot of ways. The first nerf was to her torp range. It was nerfed from 10 kilometers to 7 kilometers. A further nerf to reduce the speed and damage of the torpedoes occurred during the Japanese destroyer split, where she was moved to the second line. And if I remember correctly, her torpedoes were also part of the torpedo detection nerf. In fact, this ship was most likely one of the biggest reasons for that nerf. In spite of all these nerfs, though, the Minekaze is still a very strong ship, boasting decent guns. Granted, not great, I wouldn't even really call them good, but they're great in the same way that all the other Japanese destroyers are, and they're good at starting fires to supplement your damage to draw out repair parties. She also still has extremely strong torpedoes. She is fast, maneuverable, and has considerable stealth when spec'd into a stealth build. And she still represents a solid choice for Tier 5 destroyers, and in my opinion is still the best of all the Tier 5 destroyers in the game at the moment. The torpedo damage nerf did limit the ability for her to reliably one-salvo kill battleships with the 6 torpedo hits. However, she will still do considerable damage to them if she does land all 6. In terms of her stats, she has 10,900 hit points, so not a whole lot. She has, in terms of main battery, it consists of 4 120mm guns. They are mounted in a rather unique configuration. There's one all the way up here in the front, one here in the mid, one here behind that one in the mid, and then one at the very tail end. They have a main battery firing range of 7.6 kilometers without advanced firing training. I think it goes up to 9.2 with. Don't quote me on that math. Her torpedoes consist of 3 dual launchers. They are, again, mounted one in the front, and then the 2 are mounted more towards the aft end of the ship. They have a range of 7 kilometers, a speed of 57 knots, and a total damage of 10,833, with a detection range of only 1.2 kilometers. So they are reasonably fast. They're not as fast as the old torpedoes, which had a much, much faster speed of 68 knots. And yes, that was me flashing to Kamikaze, which is essentially, if you're looking for the old Minekaze to play, definitely consider picking up Kamikaze. I plan on doing a review of her here in the not too distant future. Okay, in terms of anti-aircraft defense, she does have some anti-aircraft defense, but quite honestly, it's not really worth noting. It mostly consists of these 13mm guns. There are 2 singles and 1 dual, so for a total of 4. Total DPS of 10, and that starts at 1.2 kilometers. And then she has a single dual 25mm Type 96 Mod 1 with a 6 DPS and 3.1 kilometer range. So no AA really worth speaking. She does have a 39 knot top speed, 550 meter turning radius, and a rudder shift time of a really, really short 2.1 seconds. Her detection range by sea is 6 kilometers with Concealment Expert down to 5.4. Her detection range by air is 3.1 kilometers. In terms of upgrades, she's going to follow a pretty standard build so far. Main armaments Mod 1 for the reduction in both your main battery and torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated, as well as a 50% increase in both of those things, and a 20% reduction in the repair time for both of those things. The second upgrade slot, I'm picking Aiming Systems Mod 1 for the reduction in the main battery dispersion, 7% reduction. It also increases how fast the torpedo tubes turn by 20%. There are no secondaries to talk about, so we won't bother with that. The other 2 modifications don't make a whole lot of sense for this ship. Again, increasing the anti-aircraft range of the already pitiful AA on this ship is not worth it. And the reduction in the time it takes to turn the turrets 180 degrees isn't worth the reduction in main battery load time. There are some people that will pick this, and I get the reasons why you're doing that. With basic firing training, you can kind of sort of get the turrets to turn well. But I'd much rather just turn the ship to use the guns as opposed to waiting for the guns to actually traverse. There's only a few times that I would think that extra traverse would really be all that beneficial, especially since the way I personally play her with her guns is to use the ship to turn, and that's part of my defensive measure when I'm WASDing. As soon as I'm kicking the rudder over, I'm firing as soon as the guns all come up. So that's kind of how I play around with her in terms of her guns. Let's stop talking. Oh, wait, we got one more mod to go over. My bad. And Propulsion Systems Mod 1 is going to be a standard for all the destroyers. Anything you can do to keep the engines alive longer, the better. You can make a pretty solid case for steering gears Mod 1, but I find that the engine is more of a detriment when it gets taken out than the steering gears, simply because Last Stand allows me to steer the ship still. It does allow me to kind of crawl away. However, when you're crawling away at a much lower speed than your max. If the engine doesn't get taken out, you're able to get away much easier. Damage Control Systems Mod 1, really no use on a destroyer, so don't pick that one, at least in my opinion. Anyway, let's dive on into that battle video. Alright, so this battle is obviously going to be a very interesting one, and it's probably going to be a little controversial. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. So we are in a Tier 7 match, and I am in the Minekaze, so we are up-tiered tremendously. Spoiler alert, we lose this match, and spoiler alert, I do reasonably well, but I do die in this match. So I guess that throws a wrench in the, well, he's just posting these videos to brag about it. Anyway, this is Estuary, and the A point is the logical place for us to go, provided we can get some support. If we can get some support, this really is a good, solid direction to go. If we don't, well, it can kind of play out badly for us, simply because we don't have anyone there to kind of take the heat off of us from other ships. We do end up going to A, and we do end up getting some support, so that's good. my recommendation and what I want to talk about in this video the most is I want to talk about using and setting up this ship to contest caps, as well as using the torpedoes to attack. And it's going to take me a while to get to the section where the torpedo thing becomes a big deal, but right off the bat here, we're going to talk about capping points. If I haven't already drilled this point into your head, Japanese destroyers contest caps in a much different way than the US destroyers do. That's not a bad thing. Just understand that you cannot win a knife fight against a US destroyer. It's just not going to happen. It's arguably not going to happen up against a Russian destroyer, which has much faster rate of fire. So to contest caps successfully, your goal is simply to outspot other destroyers that are in the cap, as well as launching torpedoes to either deny people coming through certain popular openings in the islands, or to, frighten other destroyers off the cap with your torpedoes, or to torpedo smoke, or simply just to scout. And you'll see here that I've set myself up so I have a good escape route should a US destroyer suddenly pop up and feel the urge to make my life miserable. And that is how you set yourself up. You have to be thinking that far ahead with the Japanese destroyer if you plan on contesting caps like they expect you to. And so set yourself up with a good escape route where you can escape either behind an island or back to your teammates, and definitely stay in an area where your teammates are close enough to where they can assist you if you get into a gunfight. Because the only way you'll win a gunfight up against another destroyer is if it's a US destroyer and you catch them at range, where those 5-inch 38 cal guns, which they do finally see in the Nicholas, have such a huge arc that it makes it hard for them to hit while you still have a relatively flat arc. So we've managed to capture A here with absolutely no enemies at all. So we are going... No enemy destroyers at all. So we are going to go... Oh! Detected. Ooh, what's detecting me? Why, hello there, Mr. Kamikaze R. What he probably wasn't expecting was me to go ahead and launch torpedoes, and not only that, but to shoot at him. I mean, he shot at me, it's only fair, right? So, we've taken a whole whopping 2,000 hit points off of that poor Kamikaze R. By the way, the Kamikaze R is no different than the Kamikaze. It's more or less a collector ship. There we're using the bullet cam to see if I even aimed those right, which I didn't. The Kamikaze R is merely a ship that was given out for, what was the R code event or something to that effect. You basically had to collect pearls in order to get it, a certain number of pearls, and I think you get kills and stuff like that to get those. Anyway, we're going to launch torpedoes into the smoke. I was hoping that this Kamikaze R was sitting there and I would be able to get those torpedoes off and kill him as he was backing up. I don't think he's there, but we're going to go ahead and launch him anyway, just in case he is, and there's a slight chance that Miyoko there could eat one of those torpedoes if he kept going on and charging in whole hog like he is. You'll see I'm using islands here to cover any advance that I might make on the enemy battleship or the cruiser that's there. At this tier, fighting in a tier 7 match, I don't recommend going suicide rushing battleship players escorted by cruisers. At lower tiers you can get away with it, but at these tiers it definitely becomes a futile effort. They simply will outpace you in damage, and there's no efficient way to do it unless you just happen to pop out behind an island where one is going to be at. Now remember, you only have these 7K torpedoes and they're extremely slow, so hitting a cruiser with them is difficult but not impossible if the cruiser is maneuvering at all. And we are kind of out of options here when it comes to targets, so I don't know what the plan is here. I guess we'll see if we can't maybe sneak some in and pop around these islands here to see if we can't get some surprise torpedoes off on them. I think that's going to be the best option. One of the things to note is that the 180-degree turret traverse time is really long, so the sooner you can get those turrets traversing, the better. Thankfully, the 3 forwardmost torpedoes, or not torpedoes, turrets, are able to traverse forward, so you don't have to wait nearly as long for them to come up as you do that back mount. It's that last mount that really kind of screws you out of having your guns up and ready all the time. They have started to run away, so I'm going to lay smoke here for our Myoko that's coming through here, as well as our Emerald. We'll let him know that the smoke is for him. This is going to allow him to sit in smoke and shoot at these targets without having to worry about that battleship there really wreaking havoc on him. Plus, it's just a smart thing to do. You know, I don't need the smoke right now. I'm not detected. If I do get detected, I'm close enough to friendlies that it's really not an issue. Now, that Kamikaze is bailed all over to his cap at sea, and so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over there. I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, one of these guys will come into range, but reality is, no, they're not going to. In fact, it won't be until they are basically dead that they will start coming towards us. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go cap C. We've got one solo cap. We're in a destroyer. Let's go cap some stuff. And this game actually starts off pretty decently. I mean, I could think of far worse things, far worse ways that this game could have started off. We're up in points. We're only down one ship, and it's a destroyer. Otherwise, really not a huge deal. I'm still alive. I can still cap. We're in okay shape right now. Really not a big deal. Nope. Now things are getting a little ugly. We lost in New York. I think that was the New York that beached himself near our spawn. Not how I would have chosen to do that, but, you know, hey. Not my place to judge. So we are in C now capping, which will remove their ability to get points from us, and hopefully this will make up for the loss of that New York. This Königsberg is coming in. Sorry, Königsberg is coming in, but very slowly, and he keeps turning out. So it's hard to really judge where torpedoes are going to go. And, well, since we're over here in the cap, I want my torpedo... Oh, we're detected. What's detecting me? It's not the Budioni. That must be the Kamikaze. There he is. So the Kamikaze definitely has concealment expert on that captain, which would make sense. It's probably like his Shimikaze captain. We've managed to cap C just before it reset. We've got torpedoes out on our Kamikaze friend. You'll notice I slowed down a little bit there, trying to keep from getting capped, but oh, really close. Good dodge on his part. We're going to keep engaging him. You know, he's on fire, so just keep engaging him, keep wigwagging. He can only bring one gun to bear. I've got 4 guns that I can bring to bear, and it's really a matter of being patient with these shots because, honestly, with how he's doing it, it's not going to take a whole lot to get him to die. And so there we go. We're around a corner. I did some extra damage to him. Oh, he damaged me like a jerk face. Whoa. Battleship fire. Will the torpedoes hit him while he's in smoke? No one knows. Nope. They're not going to. He burns to death instead. I don't mind that choice on his part. So we're going to come up here and we're going to see if we can't do anything. There's a battleship coming around. Both those cruisers are northbound. That battleship is kind of coming in. So we might be able to sneak some torpedoes off on whatever this battleship is over there. And there's another battleship behind him that's completely alone. Well, okay. So what about this Fiji then? Well, he's coming in at us hot and heavy. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed back on up here. I slowed down a little bit to kind of assess the situation here, but this Fiji really could put a hurting on me. He's maneuvering aggressively enough that I want to launch a wide enough spread of torpedoes so that I can try and catch him in the midst of his actions. We dive behind an island before he becomes a threat. However, Colorado directly ahead, also Budioni shooting at us. Maximize our WSD hacks. Well, we still took a single hit there. Are we going to get a torpedo hit or not? Yes! 2 of them! One of them's causing flooding. All right. We finally get a torpedo hit. And the key to that torpedo strike was simple. Basically, launch the torpedoes in such a way that no matter what he does, he cannot avoid them. Now, we launched these at this Colorado. The secret here is that this Colorado, if you watched his movements on the map, he is moving in straight lines, so I'm really not terribly concerned about the fact that he could potentially miss those torpedoes, because it's quite obvious to me that he is not paying attention well enough to actually WASD. Had he would, he probably would have walked away from this in a little bit better shape. And those are looking good. Yes. And 6 torpedo hits, and a Colorado is down. Very good hits on that Colorado. So that leaves us with a couple options of how we can proceed. We've got the Fiji here in the middle, which we are not in any shape to actually engage. He is with the Budioni, also not in any condition to engage. Oh, New Mexico! He's kind of all by his lonesome. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go play, and we're going to see if we can't catch this New Mexico and put him out of commission. It would be nice if he was. As you can see, the game has started to take a turn for the worse. We are now down to 5 ships to their 6, and we are struggling. There goes another one of our ships. Our Miyoko died to the Fiji, and that's not good. So I launched torpedoes at the end of the island, which is where I believed that New Mexico was going to be. And from what I can remember, if I would have waited just a fraction of a second longer, I would have definitely gotten him with a bunch of torpedoes. While we were waiting for those torpedoes to pop back up, we are going to go ahead and cap. Now, when you're sitting between these torpedo launches, you need to be paying attention to the mini-map to make sure that you aren't going to get ambushed. So there's the New Mexico here. We can see, look at how close these torpedoes were to actually hitting him. If I waited just a little bit longer, we would have gotten some torpedo hits. Very, very close. Well, maybe we wouldn't have because he was turning away. Well, that's unfortunate. Maybe we can catch him around a different island as we come back towards our spawn. Now, I had some pretty decent hopes about the direction that this was going. Launched some torpedoes. He's out of our torpedo... Well, he's in torpedo range, but only just. And it's really not worth noting because he's running away. My hope was that he would kind of turn and slow down, but that ends up not happening. So we once again solo cap a 3rd point, and we are going to bail out of this because there is a cruiser coming in to cap hot and heavy. And the torpedoes come up fast enough that we can put ourselves in position to actually engage him with torpedoes. We do need to pay attention to our distance to both him and that New Mexico. We want to stay as invisible as possible simply because of the benefits that stealth has. We're not in a position where we can safely engage with guns. And we're going to go ahead and launch torpedoes there at that Königsberg. He managed to make it all the way from way down there to come get me. Alright, well, he's going the other way now, so we don't have to worry about him. What about this New Mexico? We're going to set ourselves up for hopefully another torpedo run here. And, okay, so the torpedoes are in the middle of the island. If we can plan this right to where we don't get detected, we might be able to put those torpedoes on him and get away from this situation. Now, yes. Oh. Okay, so we got torpedoes away, and we need to get the points are rolling, and it is me versus 5 enemies, but they are rapidly closing in. In fact, the only way that I would have survived this match and won is if I would have gotten extremely lucky with torpedo hits. And to an extent, I mean, we do okay, but, you know, those are looking like they're in a really good place to hit him. If not 1, maybe 2. Okay. Looks like we got 2. 12,000 damage. Okay, so he's starting to turn in, so we need to launch him to where we think he's going to be. And unfortunately, these torpedoes, he ends up turning just enough, and he turns the wrong way. And now the thing to keep in mind here is that because he's coming towards us, if he moves his rudder to the right, that indicator is going to move further to the left. If he moves to his left, or, trying to go behind us, that would make his guns, the torpedo lead indicator, go to our right and make them fall shallower. Now, those are, he's moving in straight lines. I mean, you'd think that maybe, just maybe. No. Okay, so this time we're going to plan this a little bit differently. We're going to launch torpedoes because he's now turning out. So we're going to launch torpedoes out. Now, had I been smart and continued this mess on, we could have won this. But I would have needed to go south, and it would have opened me up to those cruisers in bad ways. And so I took the risk of going after this Congo instead. Oh, here we go. Need some floods. Oh, I'm detected by something. So we got 2 torpedo hits again on the New Mexico, but we are detected by a cruiser. Not good. Duck weave, duck weave. We are now detected by the Congo. No! Congo, I just want to play. Well, I tried slowing down there to stay in the smoke, but the reality is this game is basically over. Those torpedoes won't hit him because he's turning away, and I have so few hit points that basically we're going to farm what damage we could. Still, 95,000 damage. You can see what I was talking about with the torpedoes. We're going to do a more in-depth video on the torpedo gameplay, but man, what a hard game to lose. The 96,053 damage, 4 caps by myself, 12 torpedo hits, 7 floods, some defense, 1,382 base XP, though. Okay, I get it. It was a loss, so that hurts a lot. Still, a lot of damage, not a whole lot of it from fires or floods. And 262,000 credits. Anyway, I really do enjoy the Minekaze. It is still my go-to for Tier 5 SEAL clubbing, even though I have Kamikaze. I've not played around with Kamikaze a whole lot. But anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.